Welcome to Part 2 of the training program for the 2018 UW Voter Registration Team. Registration and Proof of Residence. Some voters will be able to complete their registration online, but most students will probably use a paper form. Wisconsin qualifications are: you have to be 18 years old on election day, a U.S. citizen, not on probation or parole for a felony, and a resident for 10 days. If they want to register in Wisconsin, ask, have you been issued a Wisconsin driver license or a DOT-issued ID? If yes, then they can complete the registration online. Online registration is at myvote.wi.gov. This is particularly useful for students voting from their home address elsewhere in Wisconsin. However, as we shall see, it may not work well for Wisconsin students who have moved to Madison for school and wish to register in Madison. myvote.wi.gov has many features. You can register online, see a sample ballot, find your polling place, request an absentee ballot, and more. Online registration closes 20 days before an election. It ends on a Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Those dates in 2018 are July 25th and October 17th. And for online registration, you must have a Wisconsin driver license or DOT-issued ID and be 18 on the day you register. The voter enters their data, and then the website instantly checks to see if it matches Division of Motor Vehicles data. It checks name and date of birth. Also, the zip code entered must match the zip code on file with the DMV. You can change your DMV address online at tinyurl.com/dmvchanges, or the MyVote website will guide you there. However, this might be a problem for students who are using their campus address to vote, and may prevent them from registering online. The DMV address determines where DMV renewal notices are mailed, whether they are subject to wheel tax, and possibly their insurance rate. Many students will use a paper form. Those who do not want to change their DMV address, or those who do not have a Wisconsin driver license or DOT-issued ID card. As we review the paper form, follow along with a paper copy if you have one. Section 1 is where the voter indicates their reason for registering. They are a new voter in Wisconsin, or they have changed their name since last voting, or they have moved since they last voted. These bubbles are often missed by the voter, so you may want to fill them in on the voter's behalf. In Section 1, you also indicate the municipality and county where the voter lives. If there is any doubt, look this up in myvote.wi.gov using the address search button at the top. This is important because you want to submit the registration paperwork to the correct municipal clerk. In Section 2 of the form, if the voter has been issued a valid, unexpired Wisconsin driver license or Wisconsin DOT-issued ID card, they must write the driver license or ID number along with the expiration date on the form. If the voter does not have the driver license or ID card with them and does not know the number on the card, they will not be able to register at that time. Voters who do not have a Wisconsin driver license or ID card can register using the last 4 digits of their Social Security number. In Section 3, the voter writes their last name, first name, full middle name, and date of birth. Be sure to check that the voter does not mistakenly write today's date or the current year for their date of birth. Section 3 also includes phone number and email address. This information is optional, but is very helpful if the clerk has one of these methods for contacting the voter in case there's a question about the registration. Section 4 is where the voter enters their current address. This address must be a physical residence. It cannot be a P.O. box. Confirm with the voter that there is no apartment or dorm room number if none has been entered. Moving within the same building to a new apartment or dorm room requires the voter to re-register. Section 5 is the mailing address. This is optional information and is usually left blank because most voters do not have a separate mailing address. Section 6 is where the voter writes their previous name if they are registering because of a name change. This will be left blank if the voter has not changed their name. Remember, for voting purposes, a name change is not in effect until the voter has updated their name with an agency that can issue an acceptable photo ID, typically the DMV. Section 7 is for voters who are registering because of an address change. In this section, the voter enters the previous address where they lived the last time they voted. Some voters may not remember the exact address. Providing the previous city and state is usually enough information for the clerk to locate and cancel the previous registration. Section 8 has two parts. On the left side, voters with disabilities can indicate if they need an accommodation at their polling place. The second part of Section 8 is for use by a homeless voter who wishes to register to vote. A homeless voter will not have a typical residence address to write in Section 4. Instead, a homeless voter can draw a diagram in Section 8 indicating where they typically return each night. The voter can write the names of the intersecting streets or indicate landmarks on the diagram. As proof of residence, homeless voters can use a letter from a social service agency. In Section 9, the voter confirms two of the eligibility criteria to vote. Are they a citizen of the United States? And will they be at least 18 years of age by Election Day? Both yes circles must be filled in by the voter to proceed with the form. You might consider pointing out these two questions before the voter starts filling out the form as a tactful way for non-citizens to opt out. A 17-year-old can register as long as they are 18 by the next election. 17-year-olds can only register by paper form. A 17-year-old cannot complete the registration online. Section 10 describes the eligibility criteria to vote in Wisconsin. 18 years old, a citizen, resident for 10 days before the election, and not on probation for a felony. Before the voter signs the form in Section 11, ask the voter to read the paragraph or explain the criteria to them. When the voter signs the form, they are certifying the truth and correctness of the information they have provided and their eligibility to vote. Volunteers are not responsible for verifying that the voter is in fact eligible to vote. The right half of Section 11 is not used during registration drives. It is for the clerk's office or for poll workers on Election Day or during early voting. Section 12 is only used when the voter is unable to sign their name. Then the voter designates an assistant who completes Section 12. With the paper form, take great care. It's a legal document. The writing must be legible. It must be complete. Missing items will prevent processing by the clerk's office, such as missing the voter's signature or the date of birth, or the circles not filled in for being 18 and a U.S. citizen. Any form that has problems slows down the election system and may affect whether the registration form is processed in a timely manner. For paper registration forms, proof of residence, POR, must be included. It must show name and current address. Popular choices for POR are a utility bill from the last 90 days, a paycheck, a bank statement, or a Wisconsin driver license. If it has an expiration date, POR must be unexpired. But the easiest POR for UW students is a government document. Any UW web page is a government document and can be used for proof of residence. The Student Center is a government document. It can be accessed on a phone, tablet, or laptop. We will cover this in detail. First, here is the summary of the steps the student is taking. Student goes to My UW and logs in. Select Student Center. Scroll down, click on Mailing Address. Edit the mailing address or the home address. Let's illustrate these steps in detail. Start at the UW homepage, www.wisc.edu, and click on My UW. The student logs in with net ID and password. Several tiles appear in My UW. Find the Student Center and click on the launch bar. The Student Center is where students register for classes, so most students are familiar with it. If it does not appear, use the search box to find the Student Center. Student Center is a very busy page and may need scrolling and resizing. This is the first page of the Student Center, and notice that it does not show the student's full name, only the first name, and therefore cannot be used as proof of residence. Scroll down to the section labeled Personal Information. In the Personal Information section, click on Mailing Address. This leads to the Addresses page that does have the student's full name and allows editing of either address. This is the Addresses page. The text in the center of the page describes the two addresses. Home address is the permanent address. The mailing address is intended to be a local address. Typically, students edit the mailing address for purposes of registering to vote in Madison, but either is okay as POR. On the Addresses page, if one of the addresses is the current voting address, there is no need to edit. You can use this page for POR. But if updating is needed, click Edit. Edit an address to match the address on the registration form. Then click OK. After editing, the Address page of the Student Center can be used for proof of residence. It is a government document and has the full name and address. Any of the addresses could be used: home address, mail address, and there is an option for adding a third address. But if the student tries to add a third address, this prompt screen pops up. Before saving, scroll to the right to designate the type of address, or it will not be saved. POR can be presented electronically or on paper. Take a screenshot of the proof of residence. If the voting address is in the City of Madison, email it to por@cityofmadison.com. It may take 2 screenshots to get in both the name and address. In the subject line of the email, put the voter last name, comma, first name. If outside Madison, print and staple the POR to the registration form. Let's summarize registration. When helping with registration, you are ensuring that the form is filled out accurately and completely, and that proper proof of residence is submitted. You or someone working with you will take the registration forms to the clerk's office. We'll continue on in Part 3.